Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly radio show about the current state of Ultimate. I'm the host and the editor of Ultiworld, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Ultiworld's senior editor, Keith Raynor. And we've got a fun show for you today. Pavel Yanus will be joining us in a little bit. And we're going to talk about a little bit of news as well. But first and foremost, Keith, I know you had a chance to watch the game last night between Baylor and UConn in the Women's March Madness tournament. Very controversial ending to that one.
Yeah.
The UConn Huskies came away with the dub. But the big question, was this a foul on the arm as Baylor down one with time running down? Was it a foul on the shot? So we'll leave a link or something to the description so people can find this clip. But what do you think, Keith?
Oh, I'm of mixed minds on this for a couple of reasons. So one, as a ref, they tell you can't ref the game any differently at the end, right? So I think this there's definitely ways that you look at this and this is a foul. I mean, there's a lot of contact on the shot, but if you look at all the images and the video, it also looks like the defenders get the ball first. So that gives you a little bit more credence towards the defenders. And while we say that you're not supposed to ref the game any differently, I think most fans feel like there's a little bit of a different standard for a foul at the last moment. And this was not a particularly good scoring attempt. The offense didn't do a particularly good job to generate an opportunity. They kind of just read, Carrington runs in there hoping that she's going to get fouled. And, so it feels a little bit like a bailout call to reward that kind of play. I think if I had to be pressed to say it, I'd say foul. But
so I am somebody who is generally totally okay with referees swallowing the whistle in big moments down the stretch. Sure, if there's a hard, egregious foul, you got to call it, but you want to let the players decide the game at the end and, not blow a whistle on light contact to decide a game at the free throw line. That's just... It is what it is. Is that the way that it should be done in the world's most fair outcome? Would you call it a foul in the first quarter? You should call it a foul at the end of the game. That said, this was a mugging. It was a total foul, 100% a foul, should have been called. Totally understand everybody who's upset about it. You can't smash the shooter on their shooting arm. This is not light contact. I don't care if they got the ball. If you're coming down and you're hitting the player on their shooting arm, shooting elbow, that's just a foul. I'm sorry. It should have been called. It was right in front of the referee. Bad call.
I feel like a lot of people would say if you get to the ball first and then hit the person's arm second, like you've already disrupted the shot, and a lot of people feel like that's
not what we had here. This wasn't like a shot block that was then with a follow through onto the arm. Like the process of attempting to block a shot was on the arm.
To me, it looks more like they came down, and for those of you who watch on YouTube, you can see they came down and hit the ball first and then hit her in the arm. And there are two defenders, and it is also on the defenders to go straight up. You can see they have the straight arms attempted, but they're clearly leaning over, which is how so many of these calls end up being fouls, is because the defender thinks they're straight up, but they're actually leaning over. And that's definitely on the defender's responsibility to not do that. And if they hadn't done that, I think they still would have contested the shot. They would have won the game. Also, we don't know that if you were watching this game, there were a lot of missed free throws from both teams. UConn was missing a ton in the beginning, but then Baylor missed a ton. UConn would have missed a ton. So we don't even know. This wouldn't have ruined the game. It's not like they're giving Baylor the win if they give her the foul call.
Oh, no,
which
exactly.
Sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a mugging. I'm sorry, that's a foul. It's a really obvious foul that I don't think you can argue against on the merits of the call itself. And a lot of times in these tight end of game situations, like a little bit of body contact, I have no problem with swallowing the whistle there. But this was not that. This was heavy contact by both players, reaching over, aggressively hitting the shooting arm. I'm sorry, it's just a foul.
To me, I think I've landed on that it's a foul, but I think it's a little bit more gray area than you might be giving it credit for. I will say, so my wife turned to me during this game. She's like, "What if you could recruit Paige Beckers?" And I said, tell me she wouldn't be the best player in women's ultimate within like a year or two. Like there's just no way. She's so good.
Do you think that's true?
I think so. I mean, she's like really fast and quick, but it's also just like, just has a great sense of vision. She looks like she has tremendous body control, and like it would not be hard to teach her how to throw. Like she's a phenom. I love it. I'm all aboard the Paige Becker's hype train. And if I could somehow get her to just come out to a practice and say hi to us, I would still feel elated.
Get on the Twitter and hit her up. You never know.
Yeah, I saw her. One of her TikToks came across my TikTok For You page the other day, so maybe I could send her a TikTok. So okay, come by. As practice.
Always, ultimate players underestimate the level of athleticism that elite sports participants have, and elite athletes. We've talked about it before. Let's say it again. You know, you take an NFL team and you teach them to play ultimate, they're going to be kicking butt in a short amount of time. And you could say the same thing about taking a college basketball team. I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, we have the evidence, folks. We've had players who've never played ultimate join their ultimate team in college as, you know, a good high school athlete. They were a good high school athlete. They join in college, and then they're dominating the sport, dominating the division in just like 2-3 years later. Dina Elimelech, great example.
Sandy Jorgensen.
You can go down the list here, and we're talking about, these are not world-class, you know, professional level athletes. We're talking about good high school athletes. And that's not to take anything away from their skill. I mean, they're obviously tremendous ultimate players, but the point is that if you take people who have, you know, the ability to make it into the WNBA and you put them on an ultimate field, guess what? They're going to be good. It's not going to take very long.
So, Paige, if you're watching, you know, the invitation's open. Don't worry.
There it is. All right. So in the news, USA Ultimate College Competition Director Tom Manewitz is going to be leaving the position sometime this summer as he returns back to a career in law. Those many may not know, Tom Manewitz is a lawyer and has been kind of helming the ship of the college division. I don't even know for how long now, 3-4 years. And has been doing a great job. So Manewitz will be stepping away. USA Ultimate is looking for somebody to fill his shoes, and you know, he's been a friend of the show, Keith, and I think very good for the college division. It's going to be sad to see him leave his role at USAU.
It sure is, and too often I feel like, you know, college players treat USA Ultimate like, I don't know, the parents coming home to end the party or whatnot. You know, like, it's not like they're your enemy, but they're always the most fun people to be around or whatever. But like, I think Tom put a great human face on the college division, and most people who interacted with him, including me, have nothing but really positive things to say. He was a very excitable guy. And hopefully he won't just like completely disappear from the ultimate sphere. Like, love to see him on the sidelines at a couple tournaments. And you know, I think that probably the college division will be a little worse off with Tom Manewitz to help guide us.
And he's just been such a booster for the division. You know, he cares a lot about it growing at all levels, Division III, and has, I think Tom Manewitz should serve as a role model for all of the people at USA Ultimate for community relations. Not only, you know, being very open and accessible to all of the teams and players, but also being open and accessible to the media. I think there are times when it's difficult to kind of like have communications with USA Ultimate, and Tom was always, as you know, as much as he could be, open book, and just wanted to say we appreciate all of his work. And he's, I think, you know, put together the whole plan for what's going to happen this fall and the fall series. So we'll see what ends up happening there. He's still going to be around for at least another 2 months. He's not gone yet, but we'll miss him.
Don't be afraid to send him a little thank you, you know, on socials, or he was even in Twitch chat the other day. So don't be afraid to pop in Twitch chat. You might be able to say your thank yous to Tom Manewitz. But yeah. I'll be curious to see, you know, what the next direction is, who else will be elevated into that leadership position, and what their impact on the college division will be. Going
to be a big time of transition for USAU, as you know, they move offices. That just happened. You've got, there's the staff is slimmer than it's been in a long time because of people who've moved away. They haven't refilled those roles because of the pandemic. And, it's just, this is clearly a pivot point for the sport in general as we come out of COVID-19 and kind of return to the field.
In a really complex moment in college ultimate, we're not even sure of what the best answers are. And we're steeped in thinking about ultimate from a high level. So whoever's going to be put in this position is certainly going to have their work cut out for them.
The Richmond Cup is a new mixed division tournament that's coming June 12th and 13th. And it's got a $10,000 cash purse, which includes $7,500 to the winning team. Big bucks. I mean, this is more money than I think I've ever seen paid out to a champion at a tournament in Ultimate. The tournament is being run by XII Brands, which includes VII, which is formerly Savage Ultimate, 5 Ultimate, Aria Discs, and it's going to be in Virginia. And there's kind of a big plan. I talked to the head of XII Brands, Todd Curran, a couple weeks ago about this tournament, and they're trying to do a whole thing. Going to, charge money to spectators. There's going to be a vendor village. There's a lot of ambitious plans for this tournament. The interesting thing that I think, Keith, is are teams and fans and everybody going to be ready for this on June 12th and 13th? That's a big question for me.
You said June, right?
I said June.
That's a tough timeline to meet, I think. I think that there is probably space for a premier mixed event, something focused on the mixed division. I think that this is a year we've talked about. We could see continued growth really in the mixed division, which has been the highest growth of any of the 3 club divisions, or the 3, primary club divisions, I should say.
Yep.
And that means that there could be demand for this. I think that, it's a little risky to put it so upfront. I mean, maybe there's a first mover's advantage. Maybe you get a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm so ready to come back. I don't know if that's necessarily going to get you all of the top teams who may be a little more cautious, given that there's a lot of, different elements, different variables to figure out for the upcoming club season. But I wonder if you might see ringer squads, not teams that aren't participating in the club season being like, hey, we could just form up for this tournament.
Chase down that $7,500 prize.
Yeah, let's just take up some cash.
We'll see what happens. Also just a note, since we've been talking about this on the show recently, there's a team registration fee of $200 and then a per player fee of $25. So, then there's there's some goodies that come along with that. A Aria disc, lunch, Necky, some other little, kind of like a player's pack. But not surprising to me, Todd Curran has been paying a lot of attention to disc golf. They've been doing lots of stuff with VII in disc golf. And I think even some of the branding of this event mirrors what I've seen at some disc golf tournaments, and having a cash prize. Well, sounds like disc golf. So will be interesting to see. I think, does a cash prize entice teams? $7,500 for first, $1,500 for second, $250 for third, for getting to semis, so third and fourth. I don't know. I think if you think you can win, that's nice to see that, to actually not only just get your money back for the event, but maybe come out ahead after the whole weekend, including travel and everything. But again, the timeline here is going to be the interesting thing. Will teams sign up? We'll have to see, but this is something that's a bit unique, and we'll see if like a highlight level focus on the mixed division can become a long-term thing.
And I think you briefly mentioned that there was a spectator fee as well. I mean, that's ambitious. We've seen very few ultimate events be able to turn around and charge spectators outside of the semi-pro leagues. And we've even seen that some of those teams have struggled to really fill up the seats. I mean, does that mean that presumably this will be at some soccer park like it usually is, or whatnot? Are they turning away teams who bring sideline presences or family members who show up, or they, like, if you're not trying to pay, how does that work? I don't know. Like I'm pretty skeptical, but I imagine that Todd's probably not counting on spectators to be the profit model here.
No, and I think there to some extent there's a COVID factor there. You're going to have to limit spectators in some way because of just Virginia state laws right now. I think it's 250 people, like spectators. So having a small fee is actually maybe a way to just be able to manage that more easily. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, it's called the Richmond Cup. You can check it out at richmondcup.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Pawel Janas from Chicago's Machine and Union will join us to talk about what he's been up to over the last year and his burst in activity on social media and what he's expecting to see for Ultimate this coming summer. So stay with us. It's Deep Look. Joining us now on Deep Look is Pawel Janas, who's been a longtime player for Chicago Machine, as well as the now Chicago Union, formerly the Chicago Wildfire and the AUDL. Pavel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Always happy to fill in a slow news week for you guys. So
much appreciated. I mean, at least you understand the situation. No, it's been I don't think we've ever had you on Deep Look. Am I misremembering?
I mean, there's no reason really to have me on Deep Look. So no, you're not misremembering.
I don't know if that's true. I feel like, however, you have become a more. I've seen more of you on social media over the last year than maybe I have in the past. And I don't know if that's just because I've seen it during the pandemic or if that's been an active choice by you to be kind of more engaged. But you've been a prominent voice online lately. How have you been managing through the lack of Ultimate that we've had over this last 12 months?
Well, I mean, I think you just nailed it right there. You can't play and you can't see your teammates, then you try to engage in some other way. And social media is kind of the way to engage with the world right now. And I think that's pretty bad, but it is what it is, especially on Twitter. But yeah, it's just been an outlet for me to communicate and to, stay up to date on what people are thinking and what they're doing in the Ultimate community.
So what have you been doing during this time? I know it's a challenging time. If we're at this big break, but we're potentially returning to play soon. And so as a elite player, how do you stay prepared and what have you spent this time doing?
Yeah, lots of individual workouts. I will never work out by myself ever again. If we come out of this pandemic, like I'm gonna find a workout partner or something. Like it's been a lot of isolation and just doing just working out by yourself, but also a lot of mini. Like it's not a secret anymore. Like I think most of the major cities have had some sort of mini Ultimate or mini games going on. So a lot of small sided stuff. Writing about Ultimate, writing about, the Whoop or disc golf and just trying to stay engaged, on Frisbee adjacent things as much as possible.
So take us through a little bit of, your history as a player. I think, you've obviously been prominent, particularly in the AUDL, I think. But for those that may not know as much about your background, where you played in college, can you just give us a quick rundown of some of the highlights of your career?
Well, before college, I played for Boulder High School, still the first. Shout out Boulder High. Then I went to CU, played for Colorado Mama Bird for 5 years. Thank you, Jimmy Mickle. Captained CU for a couple years, and then moved to Chicago for graduate school and have played for Machine since 2016 and have played for the Union since 2017. And in between, I guess in 2015, I also played for Johnny Bravo. And I think that sums it up.
So, now that we have a sense of who you are and kind of what have you been doing, what have the respective, you have these two different entities that coexist, they're associated with each other in some way, with Machine and the Union. How have those different groups been spending this time away from the game, and how is it trying to adjust to the changing circumstances that are leading towards a potential return to play?
Yeah, I think my biggest goal, or I think my only goal, is to find a way to convince guys that live in Chicago or that play for Chicago that what is good for one team is also good for the other, and to really be one unified force on the ultimate field. Like, that is my number one goal. That has been my number one goal. And this year, I think we've taken kind of the next step, where a lot of the Machine guys from last year and a lot of Machine guys who will make a lot of the non-Machine guys who will probably make the roster for Machine this year are playing Union, kind of in the early season in June, and then we'll hopefully transition to the club season, later, starting in the fall. So it really, I know that this kind of separation exists in other cities, but I think it's the best thing, for the city, for the program, for the players to kind of have a kind of cohesive vision, to kind of build towards championships, plural, and to develop players maybe in one league, and have them perform in the other, if that makes any sense. So it's really, I think you have to use the opportunities that you're given, and that that is what we're trying to accomplish.
We're entering obviously there's still lots of uncertainty, but as vaccinations are opening up, we're hopefully going to have a full AUDL season, a full club season. And I think this is a unique year, not only because of COVID, but because there's going to be potentially more conflict than usual between the AUDL and the club season. Because, normally, unless you make the final four in the AUDL, you're done by the end of July. And that means that, you have most of the regular season of club to just focus on that. But this year we're going to have the AUDL, assuming everything goes off as it's scheduled, all the way through into September, even potentially conflicting with some of the series events. So how do you manage that? I think this is going to be a big question for all of the semi-pro leagues this year, particularly. We've seen teams like, what you're doing in Chicago, kind of embracing both AUDL and club together, but that might be more difficult this year just because there's going to be a compressed timeline. There's going to be games that probably conflict with tournaments. How, I know you're not in the leadership roles this year for the teams, but you've been in captain positions, many times in the past. So how do you foresee that playing out given the unique situation that we see maybe coming here in 2021?
Yes, I think September is going to be awful or good, if, depending on how you look at it. But even besides that, like, the work starts now in terms of scheduling games in the UDL. Like, we have supportive owners that, we can be strategic about this. Like, we know, for example, if we know that we want to go to the Pro Fly finale, we know what weekend that is. Let's go ahead and schedule, a specific team. I'm not going to name them, but let's schedule a specific game on that weekend. Like, we still have powers and we have leverage in our scheduling in the UDL, and we can kind of work our way around that. Now, of course, we can't work our way around like championship weekend and regionals, for example. So if that's what it's going to be, or that is a really good question, Charlie. Really, like, where do we put the talent? Where's the talent? Where does the talent need to go for us to achieve our ultimate goals? I think that's a very hard question to answer. And again, this is like super, privileged in the sense that, like, we don't know if we're gonna make it out of regionals. We don't know if we're gonna make it to championship weekend. But if we were to cross that bridge, certainly a discussion that we'll have then.
You mentioned that the kind of united vision of the experience between club and the AUDL, offering the opportunity to make both teams stronger and able to pursue championships. What are the challenges that you've encountered between having those two existing ideas, like butting heads sometimes, having those conflicts?
Yeah, no, great question. So I think players in general kind of take the experience of one team and transplant it to another team. So they know how much commitment or how much effort it takes to play on an elite club team, and they realize, oh, I can't do twice that much work or twice that much effort. It is imperative that we kind of communicate to these players that no, that's not what it's going to be. Like, of course, if you play on both teams, the mindset's going to switch in the sense that one is going to build off of the other. So like if you're used to, dedicating 10 hours a week for Ultimate, that's still going to be the case. Like you might bump it up to 11 or 12 hours, but you're not going to go up to 20, right? These things are, there's some benefits of scale, you're not going to have to not have a personal life. You're not going to have to quit your job to play both teams. And so that's like the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is getting guys to understand that these things work in unison, and it's not a double your effort kind of deal. And I think many guys now kind of understand this, but in the past, it has certainly not been the case. I think guys were a little hesitant to commit to both teams because they thought that this will be, I'm playing on a machine twice. It's like, that's not at all what's going to happen.
You've been playing in the AUDL a long time, and, one of the faces of the league in a way on social media. They get a lot of promotion. What drove you to want to get involved in the AUDL? And you clearly love playing Ultimate, playing disc sports now, we can say, with disc golf as well. You did the skills challenge. I mean, you're like one of the only people that did the skills challenge in the fall.
I'm sorry, I won the skills challenge. I am a winner. I am a national champion.
So, what got you deciding to want to be involved in the AUDL and staying committed to that? I mean, we've seen other top players, maybe leaving the AUDL, focusing only on club. Others have gone the other direction in some cases. So, how have you found the desire to want to embrace kind of both fronts?
So I think USA Ultimate and AUDL play a different role in expanding the access to the sport and just expanding the growth of Ultimate. I look at the world in a very kind of economics way, in the sense that I see that the AUDL has a lot of money and has a lot of resources, and they can go into communities and they can do stuff that club teams just refuse to do because they don't have the time, the commitment, and the resources to do so. So when I kind of looked at it, it's like I want to be involved in as many things as possible, and the AUDL has the resources to kind of grow the sport in a different way, and people don't agree on how that growth should happen, and I completely understand that debate, and I'm willing to engage in that debate. But this is one way of growing the sport, and I want to be a part of that. So that's just my biggest thing. I just want to grow the sport, and the vision of the AUDL and club, I'm not saying USA Ultimate's not doing anything, but definitely of the AUDL, is one of growth and one of promotion, and I want to be a part of it.
Do you think in the long term that elite men's club and the AUDL can coexist? Do you think that this is a sustainable relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. One thing we have to kind of understand is that USA Ultimate and club will always exist, right? There's only, there'll only be a handful, 20 plus teams in the UDL, unless that expands to 50 or 100. People will not have the opportunity to play in the UDL, and they will have to be playing club. Like people that want to play Frisbee will play club. So it will have to coexist in some way. But if your question is about like the elite teams or people that have to choose between club and AUDL, I am hopeful that they can coexist, and I hope that we have enough interested players that are committed to playing both if that happens. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, of course, people will play, even elite players will keep playing club because they want to play Worlds, right? They still see the club nationals as the premier event. They don't care about championship weekend. They don't, they're anti-UDL, and that's fine. How they split their time, if they decide to split, is it's going to be an interesting question for sure.
Machine was very good last year. Got almost to a title. You've played on a number of iterations of this Machine team now. Where do you think last year's team stacked up? Like, do you feel like you should have won the title? Do you think Sockeye was the better team? I mean, I say last year. It's now been
It's been 2
well
years,
over
man.
a year,
Yeah,
but
it's been,
you get what I'm saying.
yeah.
Just take us back to that 2019 Machine experience.
I think it's always difficult and exciting, but exciting that, whenever two teams merge, whenever two programs that have been successful merge into one team, you're always going to have challenges that go along with that. But also, you're going to get a lot of good players, and you're going to have more opportunities to be really good. So that team was special, right? I think in my time, that's been the best team, in the last 20 years, I think, from Chicago. We have a lot of, lots of talent. And really that season was all about getting people on the same page and filling roles. And again, that's really hard to do when you have leaders and when you have really good players coming over from a second team. I think we did a really good job of doing that. And, all credit goes to, our coaches, Andy and Dennis, for kind of instilling that the mantra of sacrifice and, team unity. And, I say that this is the greatest team that I've played on in terms of Machine. And I think this year's team, I think it's going to be even better because now that we've had, 2 years off or 1 year off and had this great championship experience, I think that's just going to build and, kind of cascade into something greater this year.
Well, I'm going to jump in before Keith does. Who's the best player on Machine?
I am. No, so I always think that I'm the best player ever, but the best player on Machine, you mean overall, like the best hybrid, kind of the best, most impactful?
You can answer the question however you want, but like, who's the best player right now? Not best career. I mean, I think the answer to that one may be easy, but best player right now.
I know that people want me to say Joe White, and I want to say Joe White, but I don't know. Maybe Joe White's been getting too much promotion lately. Maybe I should say Walden Nelson. God, I love Walden. That is my answer. The best player on Machine, or the most impactful player, both on and off the field, is Walden Nelson.
Unreal. Walden's just one of the most liked people, I feel like, in all of Men's Ultimate. It's pretty unbelievable.
There's a reason for that. And, if you want to find out and you're listening to this pod, come move to Chicago. I have an extra bedroom. Please. You can stay with me rent free and you can find out why Walden Nelson is, one of the best teammates and the best player on the Machine.
Charlie jumped in early. I think we may have some hot seat questions for you. So maybe that's little bit.
Let's save the rest of them. I have some more.
Yeah. But so we looked a little bit at the last season. It's hard for me to even remember what year is associated with what season now with this weird gap. But looking forward, from in that transitional period, and one of the things that we talked about on the show was that this upcoming club season could be a bit unwieldy. We could see some pretty significant roster changes with such a large gap in time and change in people's situation. We could see a lot of people choosing to play with new teams or in the mixed division or going from the mixed division to the men's division. In your experience, are you seeing this? Are you hearing conversations where people are like, I don't know, maybe I'll take the year off or I'll try this different thing? Is that what you're seeing on your end?
Let me think for a second. I don't think so. So what I've been seeing is 20 plus dudes working really hard, and just getting ready for this season. So definitely not the case in Chicago. Everyone that we thought was coming back is for the most part coming back and committed. But I can definitely see how in some other cities that could be the case.
Yeah. So you just signed a 2-year contract with
3 year. Come on, Charlie.
Excuse me. I swear I just looked it up on Twitter and saw 2 years, but 3-year contract with Chicago Union. What does a multi-year contract in the AUDL look like? Are you getting, did you get a signing bonus? What's that all about?
I think a long-term contract in the UDL at this stage of the league is a commitment device in the sense that I know that I'm not going to play. I don't want to play for any other team. And I want people to join me in this quest of playing on this team and building a program. I think that's what that means. In terms of like financials and stuff, like that. I don't know if I can even discuss that, but it's not like, it's not like one of those things where you see the NBA or, NFL contracts where you get, no trade clauses or, all these special perks. I mean, there's none of that, right? It's more of a signaling, it's more of a signal to send to other players that, hey, this is possible. And like, I believe in this, fully, that I'm willing to commit the next 3 seasons to this. Let's go ahead and build something together. I think that's the biggest thing of the contract.
Charlie and I were discussing the idea of like, could we ever see trades? And maybe
I know.
Maybe you have to move for some reason, and suddenly your contract has to be traded for something. We'll see. Maybe it's possible. The team obviously also went through a change of its own. Changed names. So now the Chicago Union. What's your take on the new rebrand?
I think it's been awesome. I don't know. I mean, the social media that we're putting out, our content creators have just done a fantastic job. Like I love the new logo. The name is, it's sort of generic, but like it really encompasses that like Chicago Ultimate should be a union, pun intended. So it's like we should all just be working together to fulfill our common goals. So yeah, no, I'm all about unity. So I'm all aboard the union name, and the rebrand has gone very well in my perspective. So yeah, I'm just really psyched to be, finally starting to play under the union logo and the trademarks.
So you didn't want Chads, huh?
I mean, I did, but it's like, yeah, I mean, the Chads could be a good alter ego. Like Indy has like these Naptown jerseys. We could be the Chicago Chads
if they make Chads gear, it's gonna sell. I promise that. I tried telling them this. I tried telling them, hey, but it's like it's like a reputation thing. Like, hey, like we can't sell our own jerseys. Why would we sell something that's like not really us? But like it's something to think about. Paging
60 years from now, you may be like trying to explain to Union fans why there's a Chads jersey. Like what's the story with the Chads thing?
Exactly. Make an NFT for it. The NFT will sell for billions of dollars in 6 years.
So you mentioned this earlier. You said you've been playing mini. What's the how long have you been playing? If you're willing to talk about this amidst the COVID-19 situation, and who are you seeing playing in Chicago? This has been like a bit of a taboo subject for a lot of people, even though I think there are a lot of people who are playing in secret games of sorts. So how has that gone? Have you taken measures to be COVID, safe? Just curious to hear from somebody who's playing at a high level and what has actually been going on.
Yeah, I mean, we've been really serious when it comes to like precautions. So, for example, we don't play with more than 10 people. We always play in masks. We're always outside. There's no indoor activities going on. If you want that, you could drive 200 miles east and south for that. We monitor. yeah. People don't know what we're talking about. Yeah. What is you referencing? No, I think just limiting the number of people playing outside and just monitoring our own health and our own exposure. Following local guidelines. Like we have never, whatever Cook County and City of Chicago tell us is acceptable is kind of what we do. Right? We're not going to be more or less cautious in that sense. And we've been successful. Like nobody's gotten seriously sick, or it's been good for our own health and our own kind of both physical and mental health to kind of get out and throw the frisbee for an hour or two a week. Like it's been pretty limited. You go hard for an hour and then you're pretty tired, especially at mini. So it's not. I wouldn't classify it as like a high risk activity. In terms of when it started, I would say in the summer over the summer of 2020 is when we started playing some very small scale games, and we've continued. Obviously, stopped for the winter because it's minus 100 degrees in Chicago. But now that but now it's like we have practices. Now it's a little bit more. The guidelines say that we can have a little bit more more exposure and more people. So we're just following whatever Cook County tells us to do.
I played a little disc golf in Chicago last weekend. I was out there for work. Played Rolling Knolls disc golf course. You been out there?
Oh my God, Rolling Knolls is beautiful.
It
It
was
is
beautiful.
beautiful. It's so beautiful. I mean, so Rolling Knolls, in the summer, you will lose like 3 discs because you see, like, if you get off the fairway, and now this is turning into a disc golf podcast,
Yeah.
which is awesome. If you get off the fairway, yeah, you're not scrambling. I mean, if you can scramble out of that, like, you're not going to find your disc, because the grass is huge. But yeah, no, it's beautiful. Rolling Knolls. That's where I got my first ace. So
Oh,
it's been
nice.
yeah, that's one of the best courses.
This could be an upshot crossover event. We'll have a
That's right.
Checking my discs.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we
can
can go through the bag.
Okay. What's in my bag? I have 3 things in my bag. I have a Judge putter. I have a Buzz, and I have a Destroyer. Literally the 3 discs that I
You know
throw.
what? You could do a lot worse than that. I'll tell you what.
That's more or less what Charlie hands me when we play disc golf. This.
No destroyer,
I have a Nova.
though, Keith. No destroyer.
Yeah.
We'll keep you on the Sidewinder for now. But
Well, you were telling me that my driving game was outgrowing my disc, so maybe it's time
true.
to start growing up. But Pavel, what are your personal expectations for this upcoming season as far as the sense of normalcy? You know, how much will it be a return to? Do you think it'll be a return to what we usually do, to business as usual?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, so that's a very difficult question because of all the issues raised in the Ultimate community about what is normal in the Ultimate community. Like, how do we approach teams about racial and social issues? We on Machine, we're doing a little bit of work in terms of, questioning ourselves and setting standards for our own teammates. So I'm really happy that we're doing that. But I'm really hesitant to just say, oh yeah, let's go back to normal, because normal is the best way of doing stuff. So I hope that's a very obtuse way of saying it. I really hope that this season, in terms of playing opportunities, is more or less normal in terms of we get to compete and we get to play Ultimate. But in terms of how we organize our team and set standards for ourselves, I hope that improves, and it's looking like it will. So I'm really looking forward to that.
do you expect that Machine will want to attend tournaments, like flying tournaments outside of the city? I don't know if they've talked about that yet.
Right. So I mean, I'm in constant contact with leadership. I mean, I'm not on it, but I know the plan, more or less. We were just sent out an email with what our schedule, our tentative schedule is. And it's, I'm just going to say that, like, why would any team like fly into Colorado if they don't have to? Like, why would you go to Colorado? I call it Colorado Cup, but like, why would you fly there? It's a very expensive airport to fly into. Rental cars are really expensive. Accommodations are really expensive. It's in July. Like, why do that? I'm gonna say that this is my prediction. Like, there's going to be an email chain with the 20 captains of the top 20 teams, and we're just going to say, okay, what do you want to do? Like, can we get a field in Cincinnati and just do a round robin thing and have that be, our tune up for sectionals? Like, there's no, I don't think, incentive to fly, to places that are expensive or that, where the competition isn't really good. So, I mean, I imagine that the West Coast teams are just going to do their own thing. East Coast teams are going to do their own thing. And here in the Midwest, we'll meet up with Sub-Zero and have 6 different games of Sub. I think that's what's going to happen.
Poor Midwest.
Yeah, I know. Great Lakes represent. Stand up. But no, I think more of these like Chesapeake Opens or Bro Flight finales or whatever you want to call them. I mean, Chesapeake is a really good tournament, but more of these local tournaments are going to pop up, and we're going to commit to those. And we might fly into like one of the last ones. So maybe we might fly to Pro Flight Finale and like really see Sockeye or see Pony and like have get their best shot before competing at sectionals.
And just to follow up on the other thing that you were talking about, focusing a little bit more on racial equity and how your team operates.
Right.
What has Machine been doing? I know that Machine was active on social media talking about this last summer. What has taken place since then, and what kinds of standards and things are you sort of referencing here that are going to be in place for this year? So
first, so like you said, like last year, we made our statement. We also raised close to a lot of money from our alumni, also from current players, for local Chicago projects. But also, more importantly, I think we first had our first session just internally about what should the standard be for our teammates, and how do we talk to one another? How do we make this team more inclusive? And then once we kind of passed that internally, we approached Disc Diversity, and we're going through their program right now. So we just completed the first step of Disc Diversity, and hopefully we'll continue on in that process, to become more inclusive and, anti-racist and anti-white supremacy.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'd love to have you back in for our subscriber bonus segment to get on the hot seat and answer some hot seat questions. Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break right now. Pavel Yanus with us here on Deep Look. Thanks, Pavel.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Deep Look. Thanks again to Pavel for joining us, and you can check out some hot seat questions with him in our subscriber-only bonus segment. You can become a subscriber for less than $4 a month at ultiworld.com/subscribe. Comes with a lot of benefits, including podcast bonuses. Quick shout out, brand new podcast here in the Ultiworld network, Laying It Out. Episode 1 out last week from Scotty Dempsey and Chelsea Pockets. And it's a podcast focused on the college player experience. And the podcast is out everywhere now. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, etc. It's also now on our YouTube channel. And we hope you give it a check it out, and hear a little bit from a younger crowd. Keith, when we started doing this podcast, we were fresh out of college.
Well, you were.
I guess I was. But I'm 32 years old now, so it's good to have some new folks. Scotty and Chelsea are awesome, and they've got a Gen Z perspective on the college experience.
Yeah, but although it's funny, their perspective is definitely different. But like when you hear the stories of them talking about like how they got to know each other and how they joined the Ultimate Team, like it's the same stuff that we went through and that currently the teams that I coach go through. But it's just like it's slightly different, slightly modified. It's like kind of the more things change, the more they stay the same. But it's nice to reminisce back on the old college days and like what it was like, when your college team was also your best friends. I think we get the chance to talk to Pavel here, and we've had him on the show, and it talks about is a little bit about being part of Colorado Mama Bird. It's just like when you're with those college players all the time, you just have a different relationship than you do with anybody else, really.
And nothing is like that college ultimate experience. I don't think.
Really isn't.
I don't think you get the same connection in the club division, just because you're not spending all of your time with your teammates once you're an adult and at a job and all that. So college ultimate's special for a number of reasons. That's definitely one of them. And anyway, check out the podcast. It's called Laying It Out, and it's available everywhere now that you get your podcasts. That is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. And looking forward to getting, we're on the precipice of April. The weather is warming up. I'm playing disc golf again, and I'm got the optimism of the ultimate coming back. So it's exciting. I got my first vaccine appointment scheduled, Keith.
Awesome. That's exciting. That's great news. My wife gets her second shot tomorrow. And mine is in about 2 weeks. So soon the whole crew we're getting there. I mean, you keep hearing stories, people sharing stories on our Discord of like, I got my appointment. So
we can have dinner together in like a month or maybe 6 weeks.
I literally don't think I've like gone to an establishment to eat dinner in like a year.
Have you eaten outdoors at all? Nothing?
Basically, no.
Wow.
We have picked up food and brought it home.
Sure. That's definitely been most of the thing is pick up and take out.
We might have eaten like ice cream or something that we may have done outside, but
we've done a little bit of outdoor dining here in New York City. In fact, I went on Friday night. It was pretty nice here. I'm sure it was nice in Connecticut too. mid to upper 60s, and some nice outdoor seating. It's nice to go to a restaurant. You forget.
I genuinely I miss it. So I'm looking forward to that too.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, optimism, feeling good. Ultimate coming back soon, we hope. So thanks for tuning in. For Keith, I'm Charlie saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on Deep Look.